Hey guys, welcome back to Themis and Thought. Grab your coffee, water, tea, whatever you're drinking. Go and get that. Oh, this is hot, hot. Let me leave that alone. Welcome to everyone here. Again, this is, I guess I'm going live almost every day that I'm here, right? Because we're going live tomorrow and then we're going live Saturday to discuss our book that we've been reading. That's for people who are members. But needless to say, I have a guest. Coco the lawyer is here. We are going to discuss the case King versus Smith, the infamous case that ended the reason men are online saying welfare took them out of their home, right? The question about how long it was, which was less than a decade, is not even at the forefront of people's mind. And I do think the conversation requires a lot more discussion than we're going to give today. I initially had an idea about how we talk about poverty generally. But because I am on a time constraint today, also, this will not be over an hour and 30 minutes. So I'm going to play the intro. When we come back, Coco the attorney will be on here with me and we will start the discussion. Hopefully, we can get through the minutiae of the case in less than 30 minutes, hopefully quicker, but we will have a slight discussion and then I'll open the panel up so that you guys can come on and we can converse. So without further ado, welcome everyone. We will come back and have Coco the attorney on. Hey, Coco.
Hi, Themis. Hi, Chad.
So I wanted to say, first of all, I'm glad that you're a subscriber. I see you in the comments. You've come up before and I love talking to you. So I appreciate you for being here and doing this with me. But let's go through this case in hopefully a meaningful way. What are your thoughts generally before we jump into like the actual case? What are your thoughts about welfare and taking Black men out of the home?
Themis, I don't even know where to begin. To sum it up, put it in a nutshell, it's asinine. It makes no sense. It's illogical. They didn't read the case or understand it. And I think through reading the case, if they did read the case and still came to the same conclusion, that will just point me in a direction of you don't care about children and you don't care about the welfare of children. So I'll leave it at that.
Because I want us to open the panel up because I'm ready for some pushback and some bigger sort of cultural questions around this. I had a PowerPoint ready, but we won't have time to get into it. So we'll figure that out. For those who might be a part of the debate coming up regarding whether or not you should have children when you are unable to provide, I think this might be useful. And I think another video that I'm going to do following up with this is going to be useful, but because I don't have the time today. So let's jump into the case. We're talking about the AFDC. Now, do you want to talk about the case? Generally, the facts. How do you want to do this? I think we should do the facts first and what happened. Or
I can give a little bit of the facts. I can do that. I think the facts, when I got to it, was the most salacious part. Because it sounds all nice and neat as any SCOTUS decision is. But to just dive into the reason why they were petitioning the court against Alabama for this regulation that started in June 1964, and it lasted through January 1967. So Mrs. Smith has 4 children. The 3 oldest children were by her deceased husband, and the youngest child was fathered by a man that was absentee. They had been on state benefits, and Alabama introduced this clause in their and how they would divvy up their federal and state allocations for needy children. When they imposed this, it said it dropped about 20,000 dependent children from state benefits. So the reason why these children were declined, I don't even know how to put this in layman's terms other than just to regurgitate what they said. So Mrs. Smith receives a notice, October 1966, that the children will be removed from the persons eligible to receive funds through the substitute father regulation on the grounds that Mr. Williams, this, I'll call him the boyfriend of Mrs. Smith.
No, pause. Because you can't call a married man the boyfriend. You can't call a married. Let's get into the facts. Let's dig into.
Okay.
Let's actually dig into it.
Let's do it.
Because Mrs. Smith, is not a good guy in this, in my mind, right?
Right.
Let's step back first and say we are going to the Supreme Court, Black women, right? She went to the Supreme Court so that her boyfriend, who is a married man with 9 children, can have access to her and they can continue a relationship with while she's still getting benefit from the state. The question I have, right, before we even fully dive into this, for everyone who is saying welfare took Black men out of the home, my question to those people is very simply, if welfare took you out of the home with the man out of the home rule, why wasn't it a Black man that went to the Supreme Court to fight this rule, to say, hey, Supreme Court, I would like for the government to provide support for me and my children, mostly for my children in this regulation. I want the government to provide for my children while I am there and unable to work, or unwilling, able-bodied, right, to work, right? But that's neither here nor there because we're at the substitute parent regulation. So we have Mrs. Smith, who has 4 children, 3 of which their father passed away, unfortunately, and 1 of which the father just upped and left, like just he stopped providing. And that was the reason she was on welfare, right? So welfare did not take any of Mrs. Smith's men out of the home who fathered a child. What welfare did was step in when one of the father died and the other father just upped and disappeared and did not help her out financially, right? Those were the facts of the case. And when she started receiving welfare benefits, she then started dating a man who has 9 children, who the court argued, let me read it. This is about Mr. Williams, who is the boyfriend when the state of Alabama discovered this man having relations with Mistress Smith. The state prevented or stopped the benefits going to Mistress Smith. So it says, Mr. Williams, further, he is not willing or able to support the Smith children and does not, in fact, support them. Here, his wife is required to work to help support the Williams household. Let me explain what that means for people who don't understand, because Mrs. Smith does not get off the hook. This man has 9 children. Right? This man that you are with has 9 children. He is supporting those 9 children, not on his own, but with the support of his wife. So this man, Mr. Williams, and his wife has 9 children, and they're supporting those children, right? The husband, Mr. Williams, is also apparently dating Miss Smith, and Miss Smith is dependent on the state to support her children. The state found out that Miss Smith is with Mr. Williams and stopped the benefit. Now, I don't actually agree with the state. I don't think the state should stop the benefit going to Mistress Williams, because I don't think that man who is married and have another family have an obligation to the children legally. You cannot say the state funding program is for the children and you stop funding the children because a man who has no obligation to provide for them is with their mother. You are morally judging the parent, and I don't like that. I don't agree with that. And legally, I think you should not be able to prevent children from having access to resources because you disagree with decisions in partnership that the parent is making. That is my opinion on that. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm trying to hold back laughter because my legal mind is like, of course, why would they have this rule to begin with?
Yeah.
Obviously, agree with the court and all of their reasoning and how they held and all of that. But when you get to this, it's like 3 short paragraphs. This is a mess.
Yeah.
This is a hot mess for everyone involved, especially the 13 children involved.
Yeah, so there was 9. The man who is cheating on his wife, it has 9 children. Miss Smith, who is the one who was prevented from getting benefit, already has 4. So we have 13 children.
13 children, 1 man.
Look,
I'm sorry.
Does the state have an interest? Let's be real. Would you argue that the state has an interest in preventing that singular man from having more children he can provide for? Absolutely, they do. I don't know what interest, and I'm not going to tell you the state should have that kind of power because I don't think they do, but I, as the state, would have an interest. But whether or not I can act on that interest is a separate legal question.
I mean, the court did say that in situations like these, the option would to be rehabilitative and give them some more resources so that they're not recreating the situation all over and over and over again. Now, if they're going to listen, is a different matter. Yeah. But I think the state has to be the neutral party on behalf of the children. Mm-hmm. Because clearly these adults are not acting in the best interest of these children. Because if this man were worried about his 9 children and his wife, why are you spending your nights and weekends over at some other woman's house and not even doing for her children? Because from what I gather, they didn't really have anything other than a sexual relationship.
Yeah. But not only that, let's talk about the man out of the home rule, which was promulgated in Alabama, which was one state. Most states did not have this rule. So this idea that all these states, one, it wasn't federal rule, right? So the AFDC is a federal program, but we have state buy-in, and then the states will create their own rules and regulations about who can have access to this welfare program. Some states, including Alabama, did in fact have the rule where they said you are a substitute parent. My problem with Alabama, no, Mr. Super, not a state sanctioned sort of vasectomy. My problem is if the state does not have the power to mandate that men living with women with children have an obligation to take care of that child, which I don't think they should have that power. Please hear me and hear me well. I am not saying the state should have the power to mandate that the man, the stepfather, pay for the child, right? I think morally you should pay for the child. I think as a grown person with the resource, you should take care of children, but that's neither here nor there. I don't think the state should have that power. My issue here is if the state's program is not going to require that the quote unquote substitute parent take care of the child, then you cannot then deprive the child from state funds. You can't do that because you are depriving the child from state fund because they have a quote unquote substitute parent, but you know that parent is under no obligation to financially take care of that child. Absolutely not. That is not a good rule. So it should be overturned. I'm glad
I
it's being.
think it was written poorly, because I think there can be an argument made for, if there is going to be a man that actually cohabitates, and that was kind of the issue, that I think there was 4 different states that applied what cohabitation was. I think if it's written well and includes men that are consistently in the home, I would say probably majority of the week, do it on a weekly basis, and depending on the relationship that they have with the mother. Like if you're actually a step parent and you're assuming that responsibility, and this child has been abandoned, or their parent is no longer able to provide for them, either because they're incapacitated or because they're dead, I think that will be a good case for, this is the man responsible for this child.
Yeah.
But how they have it was like, well, if you're whoever you're sleeping with, if you sleep with them for, I guess, every 6 months, or if you're pregnant and or a baby under 6 months, or have a baby under 6 months, then that means that person is their substitute father. So I think it was kind of flimsy. It was flimsy. Like
I
it
mean,
was
to be
written
fair, though,
poorly.
to be fair, there is a part of the decision where the court said, pointed out that in the Alabama rule, it was sort of prima facie evidence that you have a substitute parent if a woman on welfare had a child, a 6-month-old child. That
Mm-hmm.
makes sense. But the whole issue doesn't. Don't call it a substitute parent. Make a rule about whether or not a person, well, don't make a rule about this. I'm only, actually, let me rephrase
We're
it completely.
theorizing. We're just thinking out loud,
Yeah, this is going
bouncing
to be taken way
ideas.
out of context. So let's just rephrase. The question is, let's do a question. If you can provide for the child you already have, should you have more children? So if the child you already have is dependent on the state, should you have more children? And should the state, does the state have an interest in sort of cleaving off dependency on it, on the state, right? I think that's a valid question. Again, I don't know how you go about regulating this fully. I don't think it's fair to children in if we're saying don't give the mother money to provide for the child. But let me underscore all of this. The welfare program was essentially being given or allowed for women at this time. Now everyone is on it, right? But we're talking in the 1960s. Let's give them a decade, even though the mandate of the whole home rule was from 1964 to around 1968. Let's give them that decade, right? I don't know how you're still complaining in 2022 about what happened for under a decade in 1960 that literally had no impact on you in present day, that you were so upset about that you didn't go to the Supreme Court to remove. But let's put that all out of the way.
But I mean, it helps them though, Themis. It helps them
But
because
no, it doesn't
because
help
of
them.
this
Go
because
ahead.
of this case, they now can sleep with whoever they want to sleep with and get women pregnant here, there, and
Mm,
everywhere, and not have
that's
any
what you mean.
responsibility.
That's what you mean. From a utilitarian perspective, when we talk about the lack of standards, boundaries, and expectations, Cynthia G, when you're talking about whether or not people have these standards, boundaries, and expectation, it looked like the state was attempting to impose that on you. But on the opposite end, I do agree with you, Coco, on this part from a utilitarian perspective, are we incentivizing bad actions? Because if I have a child and I leave that child, the state will step in and provide for that child. Is this good public policy? This is very strange because I am very pro welfare programs. So but when it goes down to the individual and what is happening, and we see the increase, hope it's decreasing now, in single mother homes, we have a kind of problem because is the state incentivizing bad behavior? The manner of the home rule and being removed, I actually think did the opposite than what the men are talking about online. I think the reality that the state will provide does more bad in, even if we say, if men are there, right, if the men are there and they're taking care of their family, obviously there is no money coming in. So men can go around now and say, instead of being a father, I am going to impregnate and leave because I don't have to take care of the child. I find that to be hugely problematic. The man out of the household doesn't help you because it only implies that you are unable to provide. That is literally all it does. If you are conceding that welfare took you out of the home, you are saying that you could not provide, which is fine. You can blame racism for not being able to provide, but it is your inability to provide, your absence, that led to women turning to the state. Wait, I saw a comment. These men's funds low, but sperm count high. Who is y'all? I want competent people running things, but go off. Um, well, you'll get to come up, Doctrine. Let me know if you were ready. Did we go over the case? I feel like we went over the case.
We
In the
went over
room.
it for as far as the manosphere. I feel like if we were to discuss this case in depth, we may lose. We may lose the manosphere people.
Yeah, and
But
if
I
we
will
go to,
say before this person may come up, again, I have to go back to, even if you were going to use this case in its proper context, this case never addressed biological fathers that were present. So even still,
oh yeah,
welfare here took no one out of the home. This was this whole entire portion of the regulation was for substitute fathers. Like, I need them to understand no one was telling biological fathers not to be in their children's lives or forcing Black women to not have men in the home. Like,
I do have a question about whether it would be a bad, like, if the man can provide. I don't want to do it. Like, if the man can provide, I don't understand why. I don't know. Like, I don't like. I think the regulation was poorly written. I think the fact that you are removing help for children when the man in the home does not have a legal obligation to take care of the child, I think is ridiculous. So I'm for it. But
I think the other part that was kind of like in their whole historical spiel that they always want to do in the middle of the cases that lose me. I guess when this act was originally passed, I guess back in the 40s, they had this discussion before about, I guess, married couples, and if the husband didn't have a job, they were taking off benefits. And they said that was unconstitutional.
yeah,
You have to implement programs to help these men gain employment.
yes, yes,
So I feel like if it were the issue of the court to look at needy children and parents, regardless of whether or not they're a substitute father or not, they missed an opportunity that they could have implemented these programs to say, hey, we want you off state benefits. So get a job. Let us help you get a job. And you're going to work.
yeah.
And if you're not going to work, you're asked out. So, I mean, I don't know. I don't know how to.
I mean, I think there. I just don't want to pathologize poverty, right? And I think we can understand how a society does that through the regulations it made. And I I agree fully. Thank you, by the way. Sorry, not sorry. For your super sticker. I appreciate that. Um, I do appreciate the attempt to help, and I think we need more social programs, and I do think we need better social programs, not maybe more, but also better. My thing is, as I was reading the case and I was looking through a lot of things, I actually thought about whether or not having like welfare through the men out of the home rule, taking men out of the home when they can provide is necessarily a bad thing. Like, obviously, we want good families, but in terms of what it incentivizes, hopefully, the incentive is for men to be able to provide, and women, right? Men and women to come together and provide. I don't know what you do if you're hypergamous, then the man to provide. But if it incentivizes that, then that's good. I just think that this idea that, like, I can't imagine a man saying, I want to be in the home and not be able to provide, but I want the government to provide for the family. Like, that's strange to me. And that might be a very jaded outlook, because I do believe the government has a responsibility to its citizens. And I'm trying to analyze what is that responsibility, how much, because we all pay taxes, hopefully, right? And so, to what extent should the government be taking on the responsibility of the parent in the child's life? And I think to the extent the parents can't, then the government should. But that's different from saying the parents don't want to, so the government should, right? And whether or not the parents not wanting to should have, like, should the child be taken away? I think there's a lot to consider, because I don't agree with the Alabama rule. I think it was like absolute trash, written, interpreted, and weaponized. But the concept that a woman who is have 4 children is dating a man with 9 children, who can't, the man cannot on his own take care of the 9 children that he has, and cannot, and is also unwilling to take care of the 4 children you have. Sexual relationship can lead to more children. And what then? Like, I don't think it's as easy as answer. I don't think it's an easy answer as yes or no after I read the facts of the case.
Mhm.
Sorry.
I think for me, I just defer to I'm on the side of the children. They can't provide for themselves. They didn't ask to be here,
Oh yeah.
and
Yeah.
they didn't ask to be in your mess either. So
Yeah. No. Yeah. I would never be on any side that would remove aid to the children.
but I think that does, I would have to think about how the government should be or shouldn't be involved when someone is unwilling. I think most people that are on government assistance are there because they need it.
Yeah.
Absolutely, because they're working 2-3 jobs and still need that to bridge the gap. So, but I mean, there are some men that just don't want to. I mean, the youngest child of Mrs. Smith, daddy just vanished. Came into her life, knew she had 3 children that lost their father. She lost her husband, came in, impregnated her, and vanished, and didn't come back.
And what is to stop this one from doing the same?
Nothing.
Like, she fought so that she can have access to this man. So now you have access to this man. What is there to stop him from doing the exact same that the one before him did? Now you have 5 children, all of which are dependent on the state. Like, obviously, I don't know to what extent this should be curbed, but like, shouldn't it? Like, I don't know. I don't know. Because, like, I don't think the government's role is to litigate morality in terms of people's interpersonal relationship. Like, obviously, I don't believe that. But something is obviously also wrong here. Or maybe it's not. Maybe I'm like oversimplifying it, and men having children with women and abandoning their children, and the state coming in and taking care of that child and children is fine. Maybe that I don't think so. But like, how do we
Maybe they need to
incentivize?
start, maybe they need to make a tab. And when that child turn 18, they send you a bill. If you don't pay it, put it in collections. Like, I don't know. Like, because
Yeah.
it is kind of like you have this man with almost kids in the double digits. And that's just the kids we know about. Because I highly doubt that Mrs. Smith was the first one he'd be creeping and sneaking around around behind his wife's back with. So
I mean, if he has 9 children with his wife, he probably have 2 more. Like, he's cheating, right? Like, so
I mean, I'll believe it. My great grandfather, my great grandmother had 8 children, and he had a whole side family across the way with 3 kids. So, I mean, I'll believe it.
Yeah. It's ironic that they always complain about handouts when I can't think of a bigger handout than an institution literally saying, we'll take care of your children for now. Just pay us back. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, blackboard none. Thank you. DJ, what do you have for us? By the way, I do have some questions that I would like to ask people, and Coco and I will sort of moderate together for the next, hopefully less than an hour. Go ahead, DJ.
Hi, can you hear me
Yes.
clearly as well?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, hi guys. So I've just been listening. Very just conflicted. I would have one opinion and then you'd say something that would make me change it. This is kind of where I am because this is at least her case in particular. One question that I asked in the comments was exactly how common was her particular scenario, right? Because she was kind of left asked out since, the father of 3 of her children is deceased. So it's not like she could rely on his support. And then you have one other father who left the picture. So what exactly is she supposed to do, right? Like not see anyone simply because, they wouldn't be able to.
That's a false claim, though, right? You can see someone, just not someone with 9 children who is married.
Oh, of course. But this is at least where I'm coming from, right? Because I have to imagine, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but when I think about the scenarios in which somebody would be denied, I have to imagine that it wouldn't be a scenario like Mrs. Smith. It would be something more along the lines of either a man being in the home and, not being able to provide, and thus they're shutting them down. And at least I'm coming from that perspective because I know a lot of people even in my family, right, where they have someone in the home that is supposed to be helping them, and they do not go to them for help. Instead, they would go to other family members. And that would drive me crazy, right? Because what you would then have are people who would want to help that person because they don't want the child in the household to suffer, when in reality, they're benefiting the person that doesn't want to help. Yeah. And for me, I think that's why I just have the perspective of, even though I'm absolutely pro-welfare and, I agree with everything that you guys are saying, I do feel like sometimes the innocent need to suffer for the sins of the parent. And even though I'm sorry, but that's kind of where I am, because Mrs. Smith, I just feel like she's not a good example because I keep harping on the.
Can I interject? So just to put into context, so Alabama's rule, if you want, I'll just read what it is. So it says the regulation: an able-bodied man, married or single, is considered a substitute father for all children of the applicant mother. There are 3 different situations. 1, he lives in the home with the children's natural or adoptive mother for the purpose of cohabitation. Or 2, he visits frequently for the purpose of cohabitating with the child's natural or adoptive mother. Or 3, he does not frequent the home, but cohabitates with the child's natural adoptive mother elsewhere. Whether the substitute father is whether the substitute father is actually the father of the children is irrelevant. It is also irrelevant whether he is legally obligated to support the children or whether he does, in fact, contribute to the support. And then they go into the things. And so when Alabama put this regulation into action, they declined 20,000 persons, and the number of children affected was 16,000 across the state. So although Mrs. Smith is the figurehead of this, the actual parties to this are Alabama versus 16,000 children that were denied benefits because they had a substitute father under this regulation. So I don't know if that clears things up a little bit.
No, it definitely does. Thank you for providing that clarity, which makes me lean even more so towards your side. Of course, I would not want to be in support of something that would negatively impact children. But I guess what I keep going back to is, by not intervening, children 5 and 6 could have been well on their way. And so I feel like that's where I kind of land, because cohabitation
but from just a purely sort of utilitarian perspective, are you saying it's okay for her to be removed from public benefits program in this case because of the substitute father rule, because of the potential and likelihood that a fifth child and thus 14 children would
Mm.
be created.
I say no only because I feel like what makes Mrs. Smith situation different, at least in my mind, is the fact that 3 out of the 4 kids, their father is can't be in the picture even if he wanted to. So I feel like that adds another layer for me where she could very well be getting that help that she needs, but he's literally not here to give it. So to make her choose between essentially not seeing a man, right? Because if they're saying he doesn't even have to live there, but if she's seeing him, then they're counting that. I do think that that is completely unfair, at least in Mrs. Smith's situation. I guess, and this is a question that cannot be answered, but just how common is Mrs. Smith's situation? Her exact one. These
Well,
13 kids.
the one where the person died. Not, I don't
Mhm.
think, I'm not sure how common, but the Moynihan report that these people like to wave highlighted that
Mhm.
abandonment was high. So at least as it
Mhm.
relates to the fourth child, where the man just upped and left, that was
Mhm.
very prominent.
So let
Yeah,
me
that was.
bring back into some more context because I think that, I mean, her specific story with her having 4 children and him having a wife and 9 kids may
Mhm.
be a little unique, but based on what the regulation was and how many kids got cut off, and then also bringing in the act that this is all based off of defines a needy child as a child who has been deprived of parental support or care by reason of death, continued absence from the home, or physical or mental incapacity of the parent, and who was living with another parent. It
Mhm.
has to be widespread because in order for the child to be needy in this manner, their father has to be gone for some reason. And there has to be another man that frequents the mother's home. That was the whole thing. It has to be both of those things working at the same time. So 16,000 kids, that's a lot of situations that are at least very, very similar, if not, well, not, they're not identical, but very,
Mhm.
very similar situation that these kids are in. Their original biological father is gone, and their mother is consistently cohabitating, whatever that means under Alabama rule, with another man that's not taking care of them. That's
Mhm.
16,000 kids in one state affected by those particular circumstances.
Was the wife receiving benefits? No, Mr. Williams' wife was not receiving benefits as
She
far as
had
I'm
to
concerned.
work.
Yeah.
That was the
Um,
other thing they had a problem with in the case, as one of their reasoning of why they put this in place is because they were looking at 2-parent homes they were married with kids that were they were also in poverty. So they were saying they're
Mhm.
putting those kids on equal footing by saying this man that's in and out of the home that's not their actual dad is actually, their substitute father. So it's
yeah.
a mess.
Um,
It's a
I think,
mess.
It's a
by the
mess.
way, thank you, DJ. I'll add Pretty Brown Skin. Kosha was next, but she dropped off. Pretty Brown Skin. Thank you, DJ. Any last words, by the way?
Yeah, no, I'm just trying to take it all in. I really don't have an opinion because this is so multifaceted. But yeah, thank you for providing more clarity.
Yeah, no, you're welcome. Thank you for your contribution also. All
Of
right, Pretty
course.
Brown Skin, go ahead.
Hi, can you hear me? Because I know I have like zero connection.
No, you're
I
fine.
just
You're
want to know
fine.
if you guys can hear me.
Yep.
Okay, good. So I wanted to dive in a little bit about the Moynihan report, which I think is a big key factor to that case. When I was reading it, pretty much the woman cannot receive any benefits if there is a man in the home. So by document, even though the man was pretty much in and out of home, he wasn't able to take care of children like that. But on paper, she was married. And I noticed when I was reading that Moynihan report, majority of the Black women that were raising these kids were married, but the men left. So pretty much they were a married single mother. And even when they try to look for the father, their whereabouts were unknown. That's one. Two, I agree with both what both of the women are saying. I'm on the side of the children. The children should not have to deal with the consequences of not just the mother but the father. But I also do believe that there needs to be, who are you gonna come for me? I also believe there needs to be some responsibility and accountability and consequences for having multiple children, knowing that the dad is not there, he's not going to take care of the children. Why do you keep having more children
I
and
mean,
thinking that the
I think
system is going
it.
to take care of it?
I don't fully disagree, but I don't think generally women have children knowing that the man is not going to be there. But I do question, because there was a comment made that the children should not have to suffer for the action of the parents. Let's dead that. Someone taught me that, and I've been using it a lot. Let's dead it. Children suffer because of their parents. Like, that's as a general matter. Now, should
Yeah.
we impose specific punishment that is directed towards children because of their parents' actions? I don't know. I mean, we remove children from homes, right? So I
I'm
don't
glad you
know
said
though.
that, Themis.
Huh?
I'm glad you said that, Themis.
I kind of agree with what Miss Cupcakes is saying, is women are having sex while knowing that they are poor. I think that also has to be a factor in it
No, but
as well.
I
I
mean,
feel
they
like,
tried to factor that
oh,
in. I think that was one of their original rationales of implementing the regulation to begin with. They were trying to discourage, I guess, promiscuity and having illegitimate children. And that's what they
yeah.
argued in front of the Supreme Court. So
I mean, I have the audio from the oral arguments at the Supreme Court. It was a mess. The state did horribly. But um as I'm thinking about sort of the ways in which policies are going to impact children, I think there's a lot of bad behaviors by adults that get swept under the rug, or is not fully grappled or dealt with because of the impact of the child. And while I recognize and appreciate this, there has to be a way to both take care of the child while also punishing, not even punishing, your bad behavior should not be rewarded. The question, though, is how much morality should the state have power to control? And I don't think the state should be telling anyone who they should and should not be sleeping with.
I
But
agree.
with that freedom comes a responsibility. Now, you can sleep with whoever you want, but then whose obligation is it to take care of the child that you now create? I don't think it's like super simple. I think
It's very nuanced, and it's more complex, because it's like the children did not deserve to be in
yeah.
this world. They never asked for it. But at the same time, we do have to look at the parents. I'm looking at the men of why you keep having X with women that you know you're not going to take care of, that you're going to bounce home to home, because let's be honest, back in those times, the women were pretty much the breadwinner. And the man was just pretty much sitting laying up in the couch, whether they want to agree with it or not, but that's the fact. And we also have to look at the woman is, why do you keep having babies with a man that you know is not going to be there for the long one? You didn't learn for the first two kids?
Wait, let me read this. Wait. To some degree, was the government suggesting Mrs. Is MRS Smith collect a small fee for her?
listen, they said, look, if he can ask you for some, you can ask him for some.
Period. Mm-hmm.
I mean, I agree with them, because
They
even still to this day, we might be on welfare, but we still get the least of benefits. So at the end of the day, Black women are still working. So I mean, Black women have never stopped working when we came to America. We never had that opportunity or choice.
Worked in public benefits, and it's a game to most. I literally had Black men schedule appointments to try and figure out the best time of the month to leave their family and keep the stamps. I've seen ish. That's disgusting. Thank you. I can't verify this, but that's disgusting. Um, but should the state, because standards aren't obviously there, but I'm not comfortable with the state I call it overreaching in this way in terms of dictating morality, which is why I'm completely for how the court came out on this case and say, nah, you need to get rid of the substitute father rule.
I agree. I feel like they can only do what they have in front of them. They can't really tell you as a parent or a person in general on your decisions. Yes, they might look at you sideways, but we have to choose what's best for the kid. And if the kid is starving and not having anything, and the woman that's bringing in the so-called bacon, and it's not enough to feed those 5 children, then we have to go at the alternative and say, listen, we'll give you some money to help with the family. As the dude, he's shitty, excuse my language, but I agree with you, Themis. We have to take morality out of it and look at the kids. I'm on the side of the kids always.
Yeah, I'm actually going to do a poll the regular way that I used to do it because I actually want to I want to see the ones and twos, right? So how do I do it? Because I feel like you guys are going to know the answer that I want if I ask a question this way, and I don't want that to shape your response. Do you think the man out of the home rule should still exist? Drop a 1 if you think the man out of the home rule should still exist. Drop a 2 if you think it should. It's good thing it doesn't exist. It shouldn't. So a 1 if you think the man out of the home rule should exist, and a 2 if you think it shouldn't. And if you drop a 2, please come on. If you dropped a 2, so you disagree with if you drop a 1, you disagree with the court, and you're saying, you're saying the man out of the homeroom should still be there. If you drop a 1, can you please come on? If you drop a 2, sorry. If you drop a 2, please come on. I'm clearing the backstage. I'm so sorry. And the last one, so sorry. I'm clearing it up because I do want the people who drop 2s. It won't be I'm not going to be like debating anyone. I just want to hear your ideas about why you think it should not. Coco, you are up here. You said it shouldn't, right? It shouldn't exist.
It shouldn't exist, no. Not in the way in which it was written and applied, no.
No, I agree. A variation of it.
Oh, a variation of it.
Wait,
can I change it? Okay.
Oh wait, you are going to change your opinion?
I would only change my opinion if it were applied to biological fathers.
Oh yeah.
This whole idea of a substitute father, I don't think any person that you just seen on Friday.
I am unwilling to accept any person coming up here saying that the mother should be off if she's with someone, but there's no legal obligation for that person to provide for the child. If you do that, I'm going to ask why. The government says broke pocket man shouldn't get none. Yep, that. I mean, actually, they've reversed this, but yeah, that's what they're saying. And I don't see how women keep getting blamed when the delusional thinking that these men are providing or ever were is now dissipating. Like, yeah. All right. Thank you, by the way, Pretty Brown Skin. All right, the back chat is now full. Let's get ready to rumble. Like, I'm kidding. Helena, go ahead. Thank you, Curry Up and Eat. All right, you said the man out of the home rule should not exist or should exist. I forgot which one I called out.
So it is a question if a man of the house should exist or not?
If the rule that prevented men from being in the home that literally was there for 7 years, should it still exist today?
I'm sorry, I don't know if it's because English is my third language. I'm not understanding because I first thought you meant if a man of the house stereotype should exist.
Oh, no, 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 that's not what I was
I'm
asking. I
sorry.
apologize. No, all right. I will let you come back in the
Okay.
next round. Um, Kosha, wait, oh, I need to put you on the screen. Hey,
Hey, how you been, Themis?
I am good. How are you?
I'm good.
All
Um,
right, go ahead.
I don't think that this. I think that the state should give when they did the welfare to work program, it made women not be able to get benefits but 5 years collectively for the entire lifetime. But it also made them go to work or go to school or volunteer. They put nothing in place for these men. For these men who cannot financially support the kids, they need to make them do community service to
Wait,
pay back.
what was your two? Wait, you put two, right?
I didn't put nothing in the chat,
Oh, all
but
right. Sorry. Yeah, go
but
ahead. No, I think
they should extend it. But what will give them an incentive not to have kids is making them do community service. You could say you ain't got no job or whatever, but you could pick up paper on the side of the road. You can mow, the side of the road, go paint buildings, all these abandoned buildings that they be seeing in these neighborhoods. They can make them go and clean up. So the more kids you have, and you ain't working, you got time. And when they put that law in effect for the women, because it was work, volunteer, or school, they didn't put anything in place for the men. They say you get a child support order with no enforcement. So community service, definitely, they should not be able to sit up and play PlayStation. And if you in the home, just like when they calculate child support, if you don't have an income, they impute minimum wage. And if you living in that home, they need to impute minimum wage. And a lot of these, if they're in the home with somebody who's getting like government housing, they supposed to be on the lease and they supposed to be contributing financially anyway. So it's a whole lot of things we have in place in the law. Like, when we talk about alimony, somebody staying a couple of night or two can be enough to get your alimony cut off. So, it's just like alimony, but it's the same principle is that you bring income into the house. And if they ain't got the money, pick up on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. They got to be at the volunteer place.
Yeah, London. The link is pinned to the comment. It's pinned at the top. I'm not even gonna say I agree with you because this is fun tea.
Well, they obviously healthy because they screwing. They obviously healthy for a couple of minutes anyway. They can make a baby. So they can, I mean, why are we paying people to clean up, to mow the yards and the I-95 pathways and stuff? Why are we paying people to do that when we got all these kids, boy, baby daddy sitting around not doing nothing?
You're wrong. You're wrong.
I ain't gonna hold you up, Themis, but it's glad to see you up here doing it. But they do need some equality for that welfare to work that they did for women because they never had anything. So I think so.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. You have a great one.
You too. I don't actually completely disagree on that note. Like, Lisa.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good.
Right. Go ahead. You dropped it too, right?
I did, and it's coming from so many perspectives.
Before you do, what was the two about? Because I definitely, Kosha had me up here dying, so I completely forgot what my two was.
The two was if we think that getting rid of the subfather rule was good. Right. I have mixed feelings to a certain extent because not only do I practice family law and deal with similar issues with this in my practice, but I've also been, I'm a mother of children. And even though, yes, my ex is in the picture, what have you, there have been times where we needed, let's say, medical, state-sponsored insurance, what have you. I've been on SNAP before. So I think one of the things that gets mixed up here is that at least the way these programs are distributed through the state, they weren't necessarily, at least in modern times, intended just for women. Welfare to work
Oh
wasn't.
yeah. No. We're gonna leave that part of the conversation because I want men to continue to think that it's only for women. Like I just want them to continue making that argument. So we're gonna leave that alone.
Okay. And I think it gets, there's so many gray areas because there is a vicious cycle of you can be working and not making enough. So even this quote unquote, the sub father, maybe he's contributing, but it's not enough. Even when, women are working, it's not enough. But it does seem to be very punitive to the children to say, oh, there's a man there and we're automatically going to impute his income for somebody, like we said, does not have a legal obligation. And it
Okay,
does.
no. All right, let me rephrase it then. We
Okay.
can change the rule, but the basic principle is that if you are the biological father, therefore you have a legal obligation to provide for the child, and you do not, you don't get to be in the home. Before you continue, Batman, your children are humans with real life needs. Why are we needing to buy high chairs, snuggies, and diapers for grown Batman to wear while we provide for a raise and be 380 degrees of appearance? No, go to work, sir. Period. Look, I'm with this. Confidence with love. One more, and then you can go ahead. Secure all the PlayStation and mic. Tell the child support is paid. Till the child support is paid in full. Period. Someone said, "I'm not going to put on this low income kings." Y'all are wrong. All right, go ahead.
So in terms of them not being able to be in the home, is that really true? And I think one of the things we have to look at is the fact that even under the Obama rule, the states do have some sovereignty over how they administer these programs. I don't, my experience, observation, even professionally, it isn't really keeping them out the home.
Wait. Now, in present days, it would be unconstitutional to do it. So they wouldn't do it today. But I'm asking for you to make both a legal and a moral judgment about whether or not men who cannot provide should be in the home having children and more children.
Morally, I would say no. Legally,
all right, there you go.
Legally, the Constitution, that I feel like that's real slippery slope, because once we start, then what do? We force vasectomies. What came to my mind was the times where there were forced sterilizations of certain populations, of people who were deemed to be crazy, of Native Americans, so of African Americans. So I feel like even if we try to say, yeah, in this situation, it makes sense to, snip those vas deferens.
No. I'm not saying forced sterilization. I'm saying preventing the state from contributing to a household where there are children being created and the parents can't take care of them or take the children away.
I think the only solution is to limit it in time. I feel like it's too harsh to not do anything. But I feel like,
is it harsh to have children in poverty?
It is.
So when we create the cycle of, and this is not my opinion, by the way, my opinion is not fully out there. I'm just trying to fully grapple with this. Actually, let me just add two more people and we can start interrupting each other and stuff. Should the state have a responsibility in how it allocates funding and how it takes care of its people in the way of trying to prevent, let's be as crass as we can, people who cannot take care of their children from having children without this idea of forced sterilization?
I I think it does. Yeah, you can make it harder and make it more difficult. I think there is some responsibility. It's not unlimited resources.
Do you think that goes into fascism?
I think it can. And I think that's where it's hard to find where's that line where it's kind of enforced responsibility versus fascism.
But would you be okay with the state saying you should not have any more children until you can provide for them, the ones that you have?
But how would they say that? By cutting the benefits off?
Yeah, I mean, they can't make you not have them, but they
Right.
can say
Well,
we
I
won't
think they
support
could say,
you.
listen, we're going to take care of these children you have, this group that's on the budget already for X amount of time. And then if you have any more, that's going to be on you, barring some very extreme circumstances.
So you think it's okay for the state to continue to take care of children that the people cannot provide for? Do you think they should be taking care of them in those people's home, or should they be removed from the home to be taken care of?
I think they should only be removed if there's a reason other than they just can't afford them. And that's
I
also
mean, wait, if you have two children that in your world, the state would only take care of the two because you had more, isn't that punishing the third child?
It is, but I feel like there's been sufficient notice and the state, I mean, I don't, and this is, and mind you,
Period. Drop them
I
kids off.
I have 4 children and I have 4 adopted children. And so, and I've had some very interesting things happen in the past couple years with regards to caring for the children, with regards to state involvement because of the unfortunate circumstances. A friend of mine died. And I just, I kind of see, but I'm also, I busted my ass to get through law school to buy a home. I pay taxes. So I have mixed, that's why I said I have mixed feelings about it.
Yeah. Let's go down to LB. So punish the third child.
I'm not sure what I'm supposed to say in response to that.
Yes or no? Do you like Lisa's proposal where the state will inform you, hey, stop having kids because you're on benefits, you have a third one, and the state say, okay, you have a third one, I'm only going to take care of these 2 that you have because we told you not to have any more.
Interesting. And why did we phrase it punish the third child?
No, so should the state provide for the third child?
Oh,
After telling
I don't
you
think
not
so.
to have...
I think that the state doesn't have a right to tell people what to do with their bodies in that way, to tell them not to reproduce.
No,
But
they
I
don't.
do think
Wait,
that
I think I'm being crass. Like, obviously they can tell them, but they can withhold resources.
no, I get what you're saying. I was getting there. But I don't think they have the right to tell them what to do with their body in that way. But I do think that the state has a right to put a limit on what they support. And so if you say that you want to cut it off at 3, then I'm with it. Personally,
So
I would
what
cut it
is
off after 3.
So is your program then to support children or to control the behavior of parents?
Both.
So you
We
want
want to support children, but there's only so many. Like, if you look at the systems now today, like foster care and like just child welfare in general, like there's so many children that are without homes. There's so many shelters that are overcrowded that we want to deter parents from creating more children they don't want to care for or are unable to care for if possible.
So if it is
I'm not against it.
All right. So I created that because I obviously knew you would say both. But if it is both, how can you provide for the third child? You're not providing for the child. In punishing the parent, you have withdrawn support from a child. You cannot both meet the needs that you just articulate, i.e., punish the parent or control their behavior, and also provide for the children. Go ahead.
I think that what happens in that case is if a parent decides to have more children than they can care for, and gets to the third child, and those children aren't receiving adequate care, then it would be upon the state to take care of them. So it's like a lose-lose for the state in a way, but I guess in that system, the kids would be taken out of the home if it got bad enough as far as resources. I think he left me.
So you said punish them kids. That's what I heard.
Oh my gosh. No, I'm saying like
what I don't
all
understand.
systems are flawed.
I feel like you said, so punish them kids.
All systems are flawed, right?
No. Just say it as openly as we can. Punish them kids.
Okay, your words, not mine.
All right, period.
I work with these kids. I can't say those words.
All right, Molly, punish them kids.
I don't believe in punishing children. I think we should punish the adults in the situation.
How do you punish the adults in the situation without punishing the kids?
Well, the dad's not going to be there either way, so I think that he should be dragged from
I thought you said
I don't know about punishing.
I thought you said the dad is going to be there. What two means the dad, like you want the dad to be there?
Well, I don't think that men should be allowed to live with children they're not providing for. So personally, I guess it would be a punishment for the kids, but I don't think that men should be allowed to live with children that they're not providing for.
All right, so you think the man out of the home rule should be reinstated?
Kind of, yeah. Like
you're in the wrong group then. You're in the wrong group.
No, I do.
You have a minute to wrap up, but you are in the wrong group. So go ahead, get a one minute.
Okay, so I think that if you're living with a woman and her children, and you're not providing, you shouldn't exist in that household at all. And if and I don't want to be mean, but you're taking resources away from children at that point because you're living in that house, you're eating the food in the house, you're taking up.
To be fair, saying you're not taking care of the child doesn't mean you're not taking care of yourself. I do think there's a correlation, like likely you're not also taking care of yourself, but they could be taking care of themselves and not the child. But I want to say thank you because I want to get into the heads of these people who think the man should still be in the home, can provide, and what the government should be doing. That's what I'm trying to do. So, Joey, go ahead. Thank you, by the way, Molly. I apologize.
No, thank you.
Hi, Themis. Thank you for having me on. I just want to say a little bit of my background. I've worked with at-risk youth. I've worked with shelters. I've worked for shelters. I've worked in several different programs around providing for children, making sure
One second. Jaren, if you're going to come up, you can come up. I don't know what you're doing in the chat. Like, you were unblocked. So if you want to come up and join the conversation, do it. You don't have to be in there trying to distract. We are kind of over that now, over on this platform. Go ahead.
So long-winded, but I've worked in several types of situations with pregnant women, with at-risk youth, and all of that. So one of the reasons why, and I'm a socialist, straight up socialist. So one of the reasons, period, straight up, I'm a socialist. So one of the reasons why I would be an advocate for, even if there's a man in the house, even if it's the biological father in the home, being able to get resources to women in situations where they're battered or there's DV or any of those situations where they may be able to come out of it. When they have no resources, to come out of it and there's nothing there for them, no money of their own, it's even harder for them to get away from those situations. So whether there's a ban in the house or not, whether they're providing or not, we still need to give those women with children a level of autonomy so that they're able to take care of those children, and be able to move the way they need to move. Should we still be enforcing some rules around able-bodied males working? Is that a separate subject from the welfare itself? I think it is. I think that's a separate subject. But I would prefer if those women are able to do what they need to do and take care of those kids how they need to be taken care of. It doesn't matter who's in the house, because they could have an uncle in there, they could have a grandfather in there, they could have a brother in there. That doesn't mean that they're safe, that those children are safe. And if we start
Wait.
conversation,
I think you're going outside the context, and I don't disagree with you on safety and provision in this way.
I agree.
But
So
there you
just
go.
sticking with the biological.
How about if the welfare is cut out only after the mother has another child? Remind me of this question so we can go to it next. One more. The elitism and classism is coming through tonight. Just say you don't care about poor kids. That's all I hear. Wait, come on. I forgot you're not gonna come on. But yeah, go ahead.
I agree with that. It is elitist. It is classist. And another woman that came up, I forgot her name, she said that it just reminded her of the, how we dealt with the Native Americans, how we dealt with sterilization, how we were dealing with sterilization in California prisons. This has been happening for years. This is all.
So the consensus, by the way, this is not an opinion of mine, is that we should not be preventing poor people from having children.
Children, right.
Are you a part of the debate that's coming up around this?
I'm not. I don't think so, no.
Please email concern if you want, because we do need someone else on the other side. But, all right. So people who cannot provide for their children should continue to have children, and the government should provide for those children.
I think that's the wrong way to look at it. I think
No. Wait, no. Say yes or no to that first.
I would say yes, given the morality of the situation. Letting children starve is absolutely the wrong thing to do.
But is letting the children starve your only issue?
No, like I said, the violence is the domestic violence and autonomy for women.
No,
is
in
a part of
the
that
category, right? So if we're saying these couple have 8 children, they're onto their 9th, they weren't able to provide for the first, they definitely couldn't provide for the second, and so forth until depletion. At the 10th, you're saying that it is okay what they're doing, not that it's okay, but you want the government to be providing for those because you don't want those children to go to starve, right?
I would say the flip side of that is to.
Wait, no, yeah.
I mean, I understand what you're saying, but that's not a yes or no question. A yes or no question. It's not.
Would you want the government to provide for that? I would want the government. Let me be clear.
I would want the government to provide for them, because if they can't do it.
Wait. I need to clarify something. It's not a got you moment. I am saying I would want the government to provide for those 10 children because I don't want the 10 children to go hungry. But my question to you when you brought up hunger is whether or not the children going hungry or the children going without is your fundamental problem.
My fundamental problem is punishing the woman through the children. That's my fundamental problem, because any mother is going to feel that. That, believe it or not, my fundamental problem is the children being taken care of in safety and home, and the mother being able to provide that safety. That is my fundamental problem, is the autonomy of the woman and making sure she can take care of her children. So, yes, I want the children fed, but it's more than that.
All right. Put birth control pills in the water for all the visiting men. Maybe I don't want to be that guy though. Feed the kids. No, I mean, I'm for feeding the kids. We should stop poor people from having kids. Like, so
that's
you are okay with poor, like people who cannot provide for themselves and their children, having children because you think it is the government's responsibility to take care of the children in this
Yes.
scenario.
In this scenario, yes. There's caveats, but yes,
All right.
absolutely.
So from you said you were socialist, right? Or communist?
I'm straight up
Socialist?
a socialist, yeah.
All right. Sorry. And so that does make sense from that perspective. Do you think there is an obligation on the parent to take care of their children?
Yes.
Do you think it's an obligation for the parent to be prepared before they go into trying to take care of to have children?
Can I have a rebuttal to that, or a rebuttal question to that?
Sure.
Is it the obligation, you said, is it the obligation of the parent to take care of their children, and is it the obligation of the parent to be ready? In a capitalistic society where there has to be poor and rich, can there be preparation for everyone at the bottom in trying to get, having children is the easiest part. Is there, in a capitalistic society where the rich are going to get richer and the poor are getting poorer, is there a way for every single family to be prepared to have children?
No, God, no. Obviously, there's going to be poor people.
So I'd say no. There is no. We have to look beyond that. The means and circumstances of the government that we're currently in says no. I can't agree with that. We have to take care of the children, whether they're here or not. If we give them a leg up, maybe we can help the next generation do better and not continue that cycle.
No, you can't just switch between capitalism and socialism.
We're in a capitalism society now. I'm saying by the rules now.
No. So exactly. So if we're in a capitalistic society, let's stay in a capitalistic society, and let's say we're doing what you are ascribing, where we take care of children regardless of how many is produced, because I do think we should take care of the children. The question then is, does the cycle of poverty not continues?
I would say that because of how...
Before you continue, remember we're in a capitalism society.
With socialism.
No.
Yes, we do. We have tons of socialism in this society.
Yeah, we do. But you pointed out that we have an underclass, and you were talking about it.
Permanent underclass.
Yes.
Yeah.
And because of the way you spoke about this, right, it implies that it is permanent and that it is necessary for the capitalism that we have to continue. So what happens is the cycle, right? This is how we create a permanent underclass. Right?
Okay. So you're saying by providing welfare, are we necessarily creating that cycle, making sure that cycle continues on by providing welfare itself?
Not welfare itself, but welfare in the way it is being provided now. If we're talking about this system.
Well, I won't say the stats on that, but my understanding is even with the way welfare is structured now, so many people get off of it. They don't stay on it for very long. And that I've seen some stats that say 2-3 years that they'll get on it and they'll get back off. It's just a leg up as a safety net. So I'm saying that I think the question is it, and this may seem wrong and I can be corrected, but is it that Black people are considered...
Wait, because I think that something is happening. On a personal note, I don't disagree with you. Like, let me just put it up there. Like, my questioning you is not to say you're wrong.
No, I don't think you are. This is a conversation.
All right.
No, I don't feel attacked or anything.
Oh, all right, good.
No. So I'm what is welfare creating a permanent underclass of Black people? I think that's the crux of the problem, because other races are able to get on welfare and get off. And we can talk about structural racism, we can talk about all of that. But maybe the question is, how do we restructure welfare? And you're correct, it probably does need to be restructured in order to help people get out of poverty. But as it stands in the conversation...
But not welfare itself, right? Like, I'm not saying that. But do you believe there needs to be an underclass for the society to continue? In the
capitalism, yes.
Yeah. All right. So do
That's
you
straight up.
think the government has an interest, if they're trying to maintain capitalism, to have an underclass?
I think that, I mean, we could quote Marx at this point, but yes,
All
absolutely.
right. All right. So if you believe that, do you think programs by the government to help take people out of poverty would be antithetical to the goal of capitalism?
In some ways, I look, for this, that's a deep question. So in some ways, I do believe that it actually underpins it. Welfare underpins the structure that we have right now.
The current welfare system, not just
The
welfare.
current,
generally.
yeah,
Yeah.
the current welfare system completely
All right.
underpins capitalism as it is now. It
I'm
is,
gonna.
let's say it's necessary for the people not to revolt.
Yeah.
That's how I'm going to put that.
No, by the way, I appreciate I appreciate the way you have articulated that. But just generally, I just wanted to test how you were thinking. So
Yeah,
just FYI.
that's fair.
Yeah. What about people who become poor after having kids? Hmm. That's an interesting thought. Because there are people who become poor after having children. Um, I think Joe, how do you pronounce your name, by the way? Is it
Joey is
Joe?
short for Josephine. Yeah, Joey.
Joey. I think Joey is saying something that is true, that people don't get on welfare. Generally, they stay on welfare. And I do want us to not pathologize people who are experiencing spouts of sort of poverty or not being able to provide fully, right? But I do want us to consider in the most in the rawest way of how we can, what we are advocating for and against. So if you want a rule that punishes children and ultimately punishes the man and the woman for having children that they cannot provide for, what does that mean? What does that say about the role of the government? How much power should the government have? I think those kinds of questions should be brought to the forefront when we're having these kinds of discussion. The government is making it their responsibility by limiting abortion rights. If we have reproductive freedom, the government isn't responsible. I actually agree with this fully. If the government is saying you can, I said this when we review overturning Roe versus Roe v. Wade. Drop the kids off at the Supreme Court. Like, how are you gonna? I do agree. Like, how? Thank you, by the way, Jay. How are you going to tell people that they cannot have an abortion when you are not going to take care of these kids? Sorry, I'm going through the super chats, then we can get back to the discussion that we have only like less than 10 minutes with. Yes, I understand take some free will away, but it's selfish to have kids that you can't give the best life to. It's luxury to have children, not a right. While I understand where this comment is coming from, I think it's not a luxury. If we are to continue as a species, we need to have children. And so, from a broader sort of theoretical lens, the government does have a responsibility. If the government is to protect its people, it does have a responsibility in making sure that population survives. It does not survive without children, and without children that are cared for, at least at the very minimum of care. But it also shouldn't incentivize bad behavior. And when when there's welfare, I think a lot of people on the right try to make it out to be the part of the conversation I was having was that it incentivized bad behavior. Like the man can up and leave because the government will step in. There won't be any kind of contraceptives being used because, well, you don't have to. But I don't think a lot of people just go out to have children just to have it, knowing that the man won't take care of it. But I do believe a man leaves a lot of the time because, well, he don't want to take care of the child. And yeah. The birth rate is already down. That is why they overturned Roe v. Wade. They need cheap labor to keep the system running. That is Mahogany Pink's position also. Oh, $50, MJ. That is a lot. Um, let's be real. Morally, we shouldn't have a child or children if we can afford basics and can enrich them. The the economy we live in, we need workers. The government knows it. Hence, part of the reason why they are willing to fund production of poverty. I do actually believe they do fund production of poverty, but I do also take, so I don't want it to be where we're saying I don't believe you should be having children willy-nilly if you can provide for children. But I don't know how far I'm willing to take that from a regulatory perspective. Does that make sense, Coco? Coco is gone.
That makes sense to me.
Oh.
No, I'm here. I'm present and accounted for.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I agree. Yeah, I don't know how where the line would be drawn if we let government take on such moral issues. But I also think on the other side, just because they're not involved in such moral issues doesn't mean that we can't do it for ourselves and spread that awareness and spread that word around. So yeah, I'm here. I'm listening.
All right. Thank you, MJ. I feel like I should keep this up, but there's so many more. I appreciate that. Email me if this was a mistake. It feels like a mistake, but you guys are probably loaded over here, so it's weird. But email me if it was. Yasmin says, socialism doesn't want America is too diverse. Capitalism is good for Black people in America. Yeah, I didn't realize we had so many diverse opinions. We have conservatives over here, socialists over here, and full-blown capitalists over here. Honestly, being born into poverty is punishment. No child should be born into that lifestyle. Unfortunately, I agree. No mistake. Oh, I appreciate that. Yeah, so does everyone believe growing up poor equals a low quality upbringing? I don't think that's, especially in 20. Oh, Gia, please come up because I actually completely disagree with you. All right, Diamond, you are next. You're muted if you're speaking. You're muted, Diamond. All right.
Hello?
Well,
hi, Seema. Can you hear me?
I can. I hope MJ likes me. Like me is super chatting with her husband EBT card. The stream's sponsored by EBT. Period. It's free. Swipe your EBT. I remember that old song. Capitalism, born poor, work hard, become rich. No. I wish. If you think this is capitalism, I completely disagree with you. But it does allow for some to do it. Go ahead, Diamond. Sorry.
Yeah, I just wanted to say one thing. Everyone is like hyper focused on a parent not being able to provide financially for a child, but they're missing out on the part where when the parent goes to work all day, that child is being neglected by not having time with the parent, not being cared for properly with the parent. And everyone's saying if the mother's on welfare, that's taking resources from the government. But when the mother goes to work all day and sends the child to public school, that's still resources from the government. And when they send the child to daycare, usually they get daycare assistance. That's still resources from the government.
Yeah. Wait,
So,
before you continue, I'm not going to say this name, so I'm going to call you FDK. I'm curious.
You're going to call me that?
Are you talking to me?
The person who has a name that you know I'm definitely not going to say on here.
Me? Yeah. Can you hear me?
Go ahead. Yep.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, what is the solution for these children that keep getting born into the system. Like, of course they're going to be punished, but there's no punishment for the parents. Then, statistically, they've already said that children that grow up in poverty are like 5 times more likely to also end up in poverty themselves. So how do we stop this cycle? Like, the only solution that I can think of is either to get rid of the kids altogether or make the kids wards of the state until the parents can become financially stable, or the parents and the kids are wards of the state, which basically turns into like something like the show Continuum, if you guys have ever seen that, where basically everybody is owned by all of the corporations in the world. Like, as soon as you turn 18, you have to go work for the corporation, which is the world, basically until you die, because the first 18 years of your life, the corporations provided for you. Like, they provided all your necessities, and now you have to pay them back.
We already have, so that's how it already is.
I mean, technically it is already like that, but you do have bits of your freedom. And then, if you've seen the show, it's like seriously regulated, and there are serious consequences for you not, abiding by the rules. So, like, how do we stop the cycle is my question. Does anybody have a solution to stop the cycle of children born into poverty?
No, oh, sorry, I didn't want to put your name up there. I don't think the solution is like, does anyone have the answer and it's there? I do think that we give bailouts to corporations. I complain about it. I don't know if anyone ever heard me complaining, but I complain about it. I've been complaining about it. The question is, it's not about whether or not the government, if we're talking about the government's role, how does the government incentivize people to behave in their best interest, which I believe is to wait until you can provide for yourself and your children to have children. But I don't think you should be punished. Not you. I don't care about you. The child. I'm not talking to anyone on I'm talking about the children, the parents in this scenario. I don't want the child to be without. And I don't think the government should punish the child. But is it punishment if the child, if you are saying, I am not giving this to you, if you don't have, if there's not a moral obligation to give it to you? So is there a moral obligation for the government to provide in a capitalistic society? Is there a moral obligation, well, capitalist with some government regulation, is there a obligation of the government to provide for the child, the child that you can provide for?
Can I answer that? Or at least give my interpretation of an answer?
Yeah, so, and we're going to have to end soon because a subscriber of mine is going live for the first time, and I don't want to crossover. So we might continue this some other time, but continue.
So if the government says they own all the land, that you have to pay taxes on any land you own, and that is in some strong quotes. If the government says you can't move around without our say, you can't leave without our say, then the government is basically saying that everything under its domain is under its control. And if the government is saying all of that, then you cannot go out to a piece of land that you did not buy, build your own house, grow your own food, and do that without it being illegal according to the government. So if the government can tell you what to do in all those other areas, it is the government's moral, yes, and legal responsibility to take care of those impoverished. That is my take on that. But again, socialist.
Yeah, but I mean, to the extent we're saying the government should regulate how we behave, to what extent should that regulation go? Because if we, even in the socialist framework, you're saying are you okay with the government telling you how many children you can have?
So if we want to incentivize, I know this from working with children. If you want to incentivize good behavior, you hype up the good behavior and you diminish as much as possible the bad behavior, even in your own mind and how you deal with that child, right?
Yeah.
You're going to reward that good behavior. You're going to
Positive
incentivize that good behavior.
reinforcement. I'm with you.
Absolutely.
But there are some people who just don't care about that, though.
Wait. No, I want Joey to continue.
So if we're saying that, if we look at, and I'm going to bring it up, but socialist, soft capitalism like Norway, they've incentivized in a lot of ways people having children and going to school. And the way they've done that is by making school free, by upping the minimum wage, by giving all of the citizens a part of, yes, it's a part of the oil fund, but a part of that oil fund. There are ways
in support of capitalism, right? Let me say, part of why there's kind of free reign to have as many kids as you want is because you're going to ultimately be responsible for your children. The issue is, in a socialist country, if the government is going to be providing for your children and is expected to provide for the children, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. Isn't there also the right of the government to say, hey, this is how many children you should have? Because it has happened.
Yes, if we want to engage in eugenics, we absolutely. I would say no morally, but yes.
No. Not if we want to. It has happened.
Oh yes, this definitely happened. I mean, we can look at China and see that. Yeah.
Like it
doesn't work.
I have a fear of saying the government should dictate kind of how people live their lives, but that does come with saying that the government has a responsibility to provide in the way that socialism requires. And that's the kind of me pushing. Go ahead.
So if we're, I will take the soft socialism, soft capitalism kind of thing. There has to be an even mix of socialism and capitalism. For capitalism to work, there has to be socialism. That's just point blank. So if we're going to say, how do we protect the children? We protect the children by making sure there are structures in place to protect the parents. The structures in place are, higher minimum wage, better standard of living, medical care, education, making sure that, everyone is properly educated as part of that. All of that plays into preparing the parents preparing adults to be parents. If we can't provide just that, we're never going to dig ourselves out of the hole. We protect the children by providing a better society for the adults. That's my opinion about it. So even if we never get to socialism, we can take the examples of Norway and the Netherlands, and we can look at those countries and see that by giving workers rights and making sure people have a month off and a year of maternity leave, we can, by doing those things, we can bring more people into the fold of how capitalism can work for the future. That's my opinion about it.
All right, so when you say you're a socialist, you're saying laws can't be legislated. Sorry, I agree with that statement. My requiring license to have kids, requiring license to have kids.
That's gonna get real bad,
right? But so I wouldn't push back against some element of socialism with capitalism or capitalism with socialism. Like I think if you let people go, and profit margin becomes the driving force of an economy without any regulation, people gonna run amok. And by people, I should say corporations, but people are gonna run amok. So no, I'm not someone who's like full capitalism. LB.
I honestly don't think I have much to add right now.
All right. Let's go into the after show because I do want to end on time. I'll be on my way. All right. Let's go into the after show. All right, so let's get back to sort of the first the first kind of question around the man out of the home rule. Is there anyone on the stage now that thinks if the man is in the home and you guys have children that sorry, I need to mute someone, that the government should not provide, if you believe the government should not provide for children whose parents are in the home, both parents, let me know. Is there anyone? Nope.
The government, I don't think the government shouldn't provide, education to the children. But as far as like, housing and things like that, that should be covered by the father.
No,
Because why
money.
are
I'm
you
talking
having
about
children?
money.
I'm sorry.
Like a check per month.
I feel like that's just an incentive to have more children. The incentive should be for a man to not even want to have government assistance. Like
Are
that
we
should really
still
be.
wait? I do have a question for can you change your name, please? I can change
How
your
do I
name
do
for
that?
you. Huh?
I don't know how to do that. You can change it though.
All right, let me do it. FDK. All right, I just changed it. All right, I thought I just changed it, but it didn't change on here.
It changed on my end.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it changed on my end. I don't know.
All right, yeah, it did change on my end now. It took a while. Sorry. All right. There are two more people in the back. The panel is now closed. All right. Before we get into this, is there anyone on here who believes, wait, let me mute that. Is there anyone on here who believes, outside of FDK, anyone else who believes that if the man is there, the government should not provide?
I do agree.
I disagree.
No, who agrees? If you agree, you can talk now.
Hello, famous. Thank you. Hi, everyone. The reason that I say that is because I am a child who grew up when the father in the household rule took place. Um, I remember we lived in low income housing, and all the men would leave for just a week. They'd be gone because they were coming and inspecting like the police. And it's a very degrading feeling. And it is weird to have someone walk through your house to check to see if you have a man living with you. And my mom went through that so that she could provide a roof because my father was not doing his job. And so the reason I agree with that is because instead of creating a system where you have to choose, those who want to will. And if that government money or let's say, for instance, I heard someone say about the taxes, you don't want to or feel that the government should. Well, I don't like the fact that the government takes my taxes and pays for the military weapons and send them back and forth to people.
Wait, so you don't
However,
wait. So you don't believe the government should, you believe the government should not?
Yes, I do. The reason being is because when the government has been involved in the home, and instead of providing, or instead of putting men in jail for like child support, teach them something. Teach them a trade that is going to
And
provide.
while the government is teaching them, what happens to the child?
Well, depending on the situation, if
They
the
can't
mother,
provide for the child. Wait, they can't provide for the child.
no, they can't provide for the child.
Yeah. So
There
if the
should be
government,
what? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
so if you're saying the government should not provide for a child while the man is in the home. So, what happens while in your scenario where the government is doing training for the man? What happens to that child in the meantime?
They get provided for. They
So
can
they
still
should
be
provide.
provided for through him. Right. That's if you're being taught something or given an opportunity or given a position, so to speak, that money then goes to that child. That is how you provide. He's
Wait, no,
he's now in a position.
wait. No. You don't get to escape it like that because you're what
Oh
you're
no,
doing.
I'm not. I promise. Go ahead.
Yeah, because if you're saying, oh, they should get what essentially what you're saying is they should employ the man and the man should take care of the child. I'm saying the man can't take care of the child financially. And you're if they're training the man, you're saying in the interim they can provide for the child.
Yes. Yes.
That's what welfare is.
Oh, I
Without the
know
training
that.
the man part.
Right,
So
exactly. But
so
then women are the ones that get blamed for this, or the choices that they make is more important than what are we making our men do that have these children. It falls always on the women. So I do believe that if that is the case, whether the husband or father or baby dad is living there or not, he should be made to work unless there's extenuating circumstances. I don't see why that isn't how that could be a problem, because if he earns a skill or he has a position, that's what's going to happen anyway.
are
He'd
we
have to pay
under
child support or
I have a
in some
solution.
form.
well, before you go to your solution, Helena, please remember it. If you can't, then can you remember it or do you have to go now, Helena?
Oh, I can wait.
Helena.
Okay, so the solution could be, right, labor. The if a man who cannot provide, or a family that cannot provide for their kids, keep having kids, and they don't want birth control, the government can, they can exchange labor with taking care of the kids. I don't know if that makes sense. Like the government can have like a system where jobs or certain labor, like, cleaning the streets or whatever, do something in exchange for them to take care of your kid. I don't know that. I was just
No,
thinking.
I'm with you. No, you're absolutely correct. Create opportunity.
All right.
Create
So
opportunity so that our children don't suffer. I don't. That's where I'm at with that.
all right. So FDK, you said that the government shouldn't take care of the children.
If the man is able-bodied and in the home, I don't understand why he's not taking care of his children.
He
Like, why
got
are you having?
fired. Wait. He got fired.
Okay, so if he got fired from his job, then he would have to join the military in order to get military benefits, and then that would provide for the children. Like, I would be okay with that, but just for him to be in the home and not working when he can work,
What if he's in the home looking for a job?
then you can join the military or some sort of government agency until you find a job that's outside of the military. And then I would also say, if he's going to be in the military, the number of children that you have will determine how long or how many hours you would have to work. So, like, the more children you have, the longer work
So
week you have.
indentured servitude.
Yeah, because you're not doing what you're supposed to do.
Do you guys see for both
And the
of
children
people
need to be provided for.
All right, FDK and Chocolate
I
Earth,
think
you
that's
guys
not
are on the same.
That's not realistic because
Wait, no. Please do not do that. I don't know who's speaking. You can if you want to speak, I'll let you speak. Was that Diamond?
that Diamond, yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, I wanted to say I think that's not realistic because there's not enough hours in a day. I mean, some of these men have 4, 5, 6 children. And if he's making minimum wage, like there's no way that he can provide for all those children, like equivalent to hours he has to work. That I don't think that will work.
But so we're saying we're okay. Like just trying to understand where we are. So it seems we have created a scenario where women need to be taken care of by the men, and the men should also take care of their children. This is tradition, right? Are we okay with that traditional framework?
If the woman has a high paying job, oh, hello.
FDK, go ahead. No, FDK, go ahead.
Okay. I mean, if the woman has like a high paying job, like say she's a doctor, then if she doesn't, I mean, because like if she's a doctor,
don't switch it. Don't switch it. Do men and women equally have a responsibility to take care of the child?
Yes.
All right.
But if she needs government assistance in order to take care of the children, then that means she's not making enough to take care of the children, right?
What if he needs government assistance to take care of the children?
Like if the mother, say, dies during childbirth or something, or she just ups and disappears or whatever, then that's fine. He can get government assistance, and if the mother is deceased.
So what if both of them can't take care of the children?
Then they both need to make an arrangement with the government.
All right, so you want the government taking care of both of them and taking care of the child.
It would be taking care of the children, and the parents would be either working to get a better job, or they would just be working for the government until.
Right, so no one here opposes the child should take care of. The government should take care of the child when the man is in the home.
I mean, it's in the best interest of the government.
So no one up here disagrees that the government should take care of the child when the man is in the home and can provide.
It's the type of assistance. It's the type of assistance.
Financial
I think that is the hang up.
But let me be clear, financial assistance.
So my solution would be this. In having agency, so to speak, if a couple finds themselves in this situation, or a single parent finds themselves in this situation, this is where government and community kick in, which we have not been doing, so that the child can be provided. Maybe the mother needs training or some kind of assistance to get a job. Maybe it's something as simple as the car ain't working and ain't no bus system. These things have to be evaluated and nuanced. And if the money is coming from the government or is it coming from the community, we then pour into this particular family unit that the government and those who are now trying to promote this idea of family, if that's the case, even if the father isn't there, if this is a single mother with her child, she can't provide. So she needs assistance providing. Why not then find whomever is the father? And if the government and community are going to be involved, they're going to deal with the social issues of it.
Do you think fathers should be locked up if they can't provide for their children?
No, I don't. I don't agree with that, because what does that do? It puts you back in the same situation. My father has been, was locked up at one point in my life growing up. Unfortunately, you've taken these situations and now apply it to now. It's really not that different. And I do not agree with men being arrested and being put in jail, or women being arrested and put in jail to sit and do what? Because they're only making like 10 cents a day and the child suffers. So if the government is going to step in, it should be where take this human being, take this person, evaluate this person, see if they can find them a way to work so that not only do they take care of their children, they can take care of themselves and it becomes viable.
All right, so you are for the government assistance.
In that way, I'm not for the way they do it now. But if it was changed, yes.
But so you're for the idea of government assistance where it is to help people get on their feet.
Yeah, exactly. And that's not what the government does.
So
and we don't really have a hub for single mothers or single fathers to go to as a community to assist. But then we look down on those who are having to use the system to get by. And we want to assume that, oh, well, you're just making bad choices. You keep having kids. That's not relevant. If the person is their intention and they're chasing kids.
Pause. Wait.
Yes.
So you don't think it is relevant that the person is having more and more kids, even if they can provide?
That again is an evaluation. If there's a problem, yeah. But can we
pause, please? Does anyone on here disagree and think that it should be determinative? Because the person who said it, I think, dropped off, but someone was saying stop providing for children after a certain number.
I think that there should be like, oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead. If
like a sliding
there
scale.
Should be a limit.
I do think there should be a limit or a sliding scale. But first of all, I think that culture would have to change. But you know, like someone put, you can't legislate, you know, morality and stuff. But I think if a man lives there, he should probably be her, you know, her legal husband. I think that, or if he's, you know, or the stepfather, he's at least, you know, married to her. I think that. I'm just saying that's just what.
Yeah, but isn't that a bit odd to say though, and think that like we are going to mandate marriage as sort of
well, if it's in the housing, let's say this, if it's in, you know, government housing, well, we can strike that. Let's say if the father's there, but let's say he's not working, maybe he should be going to maybe parenting classes, you know, job readiness programs, or they're in a position where he's really benefiting, you know, or he's going through. Because look, if you get yourself in the system has the, you know, they control it. It's their dime. So I believe that at some point it's going to get to that. I really do. I mean, to me, they already do. If you're there, you can have a job, but you can't make a certain amount of money. They're already doing it. We just don't notice it. You know, we think that some of the things that we think are extreme are going to be a problem. But when you look at it, if you're in the system, you're already being really controlled.
Yeah, DJ said we have to draw the line somewhere. I actually believe we should draw the line. I just don't know where or how to draw the line, because there's no way I am not going to be okay with children being punished for things that they didn't cause.
Can I ask a question? And a man who's participating, and I think it's good to have someone there. I think it's really good to not take a man away, because that, you know, if he's not there in a way that he's harming anything, I think that just his presence can be a good thing. You know.
Nah.
Can I ask a question? If he's her husband, that's what I'm saying. He's not just the boyfriend.
No, husband, boyfriend, friend, cousin. If you're there not doing anything, I think that's a terrible thing.
Let's say he's in between. You're right there. Like, believe me, I'm surprised I'm being this, you know, I guess understanding, but it's just because I'm trying to show, you know, maybe another side. You did ask for another side of it. I think that, let's say, if it's her brother, it probably needs to be a biological male kin. If it's her dad, let's say her dad is there, but he's in a helpful position. You know, as long as the person is contributing. And this volunteer work is like, I'd be mad if someone can only, you know, gets aid and they're only volunteering. You know.
Yeah,
can I ask a question?
Yeah, so whoever asked the question is asking the question. Go ahead. We have 2 minutes, so.
So everybody wants the children to have assistance and the parents to have assistance. So what is
no. Wait. No. Let me be clear. This is from my perspective about the children. I don't care about them two adults.
Me too. Yeah, I don't care about
I
the
mean,
grown people.
it's the
Sorry.
punishment for people who refuse to provide for their children, who feel like say, just for whatever reason, the mom and dad don't work out, the daddy can't stop cheating, or the mom can't stop cheating, or whatever, and we've seen this online a lot lately, where guys feel like if they're not with the mom, they're not providing for the kids at all, because she don't want to be with him because he won't act right, or vice versa. So, like, what is the punishment for people who just refuse to take care of their kids? If they know that the government is going to come in and take care of them and provide assistance and all these other programs for the mother. Like, if the father knows that the mother can get government assistance, and there's not going to be a punishment, what's to stop him from going from woman to woman doing the same thing, creating multiple homes where he's not in the home because he knows what he can do.
Wait, let's reframe. What do you think the punishment? You think those people should be punished
for creating children they refuse to take care of? Yes.
What should the punishment be? Welcome, Melissa. What should the punishment be?
If you don't want to take care of your kids, then you can go to jail while the government takes care of them.
I mean, we do have rules on the book currently that does this when it comes to, well, it's not take care of your children, it's provide for them financially, and when child support is backed up. But do you think that's how it should be?
Yes, because otherwise there's no consequences.
So
can I ask the young lady a question?
Because what would be the consequence?
Does everyone agree that FDK for President 2024, does everyone agree that if you can take care of your kids financially, you should go to prison?
Can I ask a question to that for FDK? In a capitalistic
You're asking
society,
a question to my question?
I'm going to, because I have a question about it. In a capitalistic society, can everybody be employed? Are there enough jobs to go around?
In a capitalistic society, yes.
You think there's enough jobs to go around?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, whether or not people want to do those jobs, which I hate.
There's not enough jobs. There's just not. It's just not. We're already doing menial work. We're already doing repetitive work. We're already doing the boogeyman stuff that they said socialism would do, but we're already doing it. We're already doing meaningless nothing work. We're already there. There are not enough jobs to go around. That's already been proven. There's no doubt about that. There just aren't. Even if we say we have to start thinking globally. We cannot think just on the person-to-person level. We have to do better. That's my opinion.
I'm not saying somebody who can't find, like somebody who's actively seeking to get a job is different from somebody who's just refusing to provide. You have a job, you have money.
Let me clear this up. When you say there aren't enough jobs to go around, are you saying there are not enough jobs to go around in the United States?
In the United States of America, there aren't enough jobs to go around.
Absolutely.
There is let me put it this way. Because we're putting barriers we're putting barriers to entry on jobs now for people to have bachelors.
No.
Minimum wage jobs. I'm saying there's enough barriers to entry. There's not enough jobs to go around.
Can we stop? What you're claiming now is something very different than saying there's not enough jobs.
There aren't enough jobs.
If you're saying there are barriers to entry, that just means we're not qualified for the jobs here. It doesn't mean there aren't enough jobs.
There aren't enough jobs to go around. So many people have exited the market because there aren't enough jobs to go around. And the jobs that we do have do not okay, I understand. Okay, let me back up. I agree with FDK.
1 second. Let's stop. I don't want us to get heated, and I don't want us to start talking over each other. I think we can do this without that. So
I'm good. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I appreciate that too, by the way. When you say there aren't enough jobs to go around, and then you say that's why people are leaving the job market, I don't understand that.
So if we look at it on a per number basis, for as many adults as there are, in the United States that are of working age, there are not enough jobs for every single last one of those people to work. That is not a contention, that is a fact.
No, that's not a fact, because then I'm going to ask you to tell me how many jobs there are and then how many people of working age there are. And you're going to run into a problem of providing that.
Well, hold
What I
on.
do
If
know,
there aren't enough
wait,
jobs,
1 second, wait. What we do know is that there are millions of unfilled jobs that are there currently. And so if we don't know the numbers of jobs in its fully, right? And we don't know how many people, maybe the census is incorrect, I don't care, right? If we don't know those two numbers to put them together,
okay, I understand.
What we can say though is there are a ton of unfilled jobs. And
Absolutely.
So when people are unemployed, it's not from a lack of employment opportunities, but it is probably from either not wanting to do it or that they're not qualified for the jobs.
Right. Okay, I will accept that contention.
All right. Go ahead though. I don't know who was talking.
No, I agree with FDK that there are going to be people who don't want to work. But I also, there are limitations. I will change based on what you said, I will change my understanding and change the way I've said this.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not what I was talking about at all.
I understand, FTK, and I do not want to circumnavigate what you're saying at all. There are people who aren't going to work, who don't want to work, who don't want to provide for their children. I've met them, I've seen them, I know them. I don't want to be around them most of the time. It behooves us to take this, I think, in more of a global stance, because even if what we're saying is that they can provide for their children, they can go get a minimum wage job, the state of our economy as it is, they still couldn't provide for their kids. In order to get a 2-bedroom apartment, you have to have.
Yeah.
We're going to take it. We can look at this as a personal level, but politics in my opinion, politics as it stands can't just be personal. We have to start looking at it globally. And the global issue for the United States of America is we're not doing a very good job of protecting workers. We're not doing a very good job of doing the things we need to do. If we were going to say, let's punish people and throw them into jail for not taking care of their kids, are we going to be throwing domestic violence abusers in jail for not taking care of their kids? I mean, do we really want them in the home? Do we really want them having? I mean, this goes much further.
I would want to throw them in jail, not about their kids, but just
obviously. But then the government would still have to take care of the kids. So it's just we're not. But that is the overwhelming amount of people who are not taking care of their kids. Is it because they don't want to? Is it just because they're not able? I err on the side of some people are just not able, given the state of affairs in this country.
Agreed.
Well, then if you're not able to,
no, Joey, let's do that. If people are not able to take care of their children, is it the government's responsibility to take care of their children?
If the government created a system where they're not able to, yeah.
Wait, I know.
And then it's a cycle.
Wait, Joey, I know your stance. I don't disagree with your stance, but FDK said then it's a cycle. So you don't think the government should take care of children who are in poverty? FDK.
You were talking to me?
Mm-hmm.
Say that again. I'm sorry.
You said it's a cycle. Explain.
It's a cycle. If people, can't provide for their children, then they need to stop having them. Like, it's just a cycle. It's just going to keep going. And the whole point is to stop the cycle. Like, that's what I would like, for people who can't provide for their children to just not have them.
No, I think you're dodging the question. I don't think intentionally, but you're dodging. I agree that people who can't take care of children should not be having children. But when they do have them, should the government take care of them?
The government unfortunately has to. Yes.
No, you're sidestepping the question again.
Okay.
Should the government take care of them, in your opinion?
Yes.
Oh. Does anyone up here believe the government shouldn't take care of them? There's a lot of no's in the chat, and I don't know where you guys were when the question was posed, because I would have loved to hear y'all
I
answer.
mean, if you want to play devil's advocate, then
Nope,
no,
I do not
because
want to play devil. Nope, the devil does not need an advocate. I want to hear someone who thinks that the one Gary, do you believe the government should take care of poor people's children?
Yes, I do. However, I
Is
also
that
believe
bad behavior? Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I also believe that it can become a cycle. And as I was watching the stream, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
As I was watching the stream, I just wanted to say something and hop back off.
if you just let all or the
Wait, I don't know what's happening. But go ahead.
As I was watching the stream, I thought to myself, I said, yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, you got to take care of the kids. I mean, it's in the best interest of the government. You can't have kids that are going hungry, that are not, it's just in the best interest of the government. But that being said, I said, let me offer a different perspective, right? I think there's a lot of root causes to it. Earlier, you mentioned there has to be a line. Sometimes I think that, and let me just speak from the community perspective, especially with Black men in America. I feel like they know what the line is, and therein lies a problem. And let me tell you why, right? So, and this is from a personal anecdote. I'm an immigrant, and we immigrated to America in the 1980s to a big city that was pretty bad. And when we immigrated here, we moved into a one-room house where my dad was going to college. Now, at the time, my mom gave birth to my younger brother in a public hospital. When that happened, she was put on, they just handed her welfare benefits because they just assumed. So she was like, cool. So we got a little stack of food stamp card. And back then it was the little tickets that you could draw, like it was real money. And I remember my older brother and I went to the store and got a bunch of goodies and things like that. We were excited. Then all of a sudden it disappeared. What ended up happening was that the government realized when my mom went to go fill out some more paperwork that it wasn't because she had a man in the house, but it was because she had an income in the house. And so they stopped all of the food stamps and everything, right? And so this is what happened. Like, and mind you, there was no money. My dad was in college and there was 3 kids. We're living in a one-room house. But because my dad really never thought that he could get free money from the government anyways, he ended up, apart from his regular job being like what you would call back then, like a TA assistant at the school, and they were giving him like a stipend, he ended up going to park cars at a hotel. And at the same hotel, he got another job cleaning their toilets, doing the janitorial work.
So your dad came up here and picked himself up by the bootstrap?
But I think it's because he didn't realize there was a line. Like there was.
You think if they know that there is a line that they will stop working?
Yes, and let me tell you why. The new generation, that's exactly how they behave. The new generation, there's a difference between, like, I can see even like my younger brother and younger cousins that were born here. It's a complete difference. And you can tell, like my older brother and older cousins, you just knew there was no choice. It didn't matter. It did not matter. You had to there was no, they didn't even know that school was free. You know, my mom attempted to pay this public school when she dropped us off for the first time. So there was no line for them.
Do you think it becomes problematic when we say decide on who should and should not have children?
Yes.
And so you do agree that the government should step in, but where do you draw the line?
Honestly, I don't know. I honestly can tell you I don't know where to draw the line.
Admittedly, I don't either, by the way.
Because and okay, so I'm an attorney, so there's a part of me that's like, you can go down a very slippery slope, right?
Logical fallacy, but yeah.
Huh?
Not joking. I'm joking. Go ahead.
And so even with politics, it's just, you can go down. I don't know where to draw the line. All I can offer is that there may be I just think that sometimes it's because people know there is a line. Like, if you know there is a safety net, you know, you're less likely. I don't know how to explain it, but I just see the difference of the people that never assumed that the government was ever going to step in and do anything.
I mean, I think if we're thinking about sort of internal locus of control and thinking I can control my life, but also on a sort of back end where it's like, if I don't do this and I fail, everything falls apart. So I cannot fail because everything will fall apart. I think that does, admittedly, psychologically, allows for someone to go the extra mile. I do, however, think that even when you have that psychological framework and you are going the extra mile and you are making sure that you don't fail, you can still fail. And so I would never argue to remove welfare as a system to motivate people to do better, because even if you do motivate them to do better, they can still fail.
Correct. And that's why I said I don't know where the line is, honestly, because things happen. Life happens when you're busy planning it.
Yeah, LB, I think you were coming off.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think part of the problem here is that we're working from an assumption that given proper resources and ability, so like you have job, you have money, you have housing, that people who aren't providing for their children will provide for their children. Because we know there are people that will drop their kids off and start a new life. Some people don't care about their children. Some people don't have it in them to care for their children. And I think, like, if this person's like a repeat negligent parent that's just creating children and dropping them off all over the world, that is a criminal form of negligence, or it should be morally.
I'm conflicted. Should the children suffer because the parents can't provide? So what I'm hoping to uncover on here, which I think I did, but maybe I didn't do well enough, but was to kind of go back and forth, particularly with people who said, don't provide for them kids if the father can't provide, right? I think a lot of people aren't actually saying being mean and vindictive. I think they're responding to the parent who decided to leave, but although to not provide, not leave, but not provide or can't. When we discuss this in this way, I think what we find is these people aren't just saying cut it off in absolute terms. And I do hope that you see everyone kind of struggling with what the right thing to do is. You know what I mean? Like, I was very disappointed, and I just made that comment somewhere else. But then as we were talking, I realized we are all sort of struggling with it together. And I think that's a good thing. I don't think any one of us know fully, like, this is the right answer. And from a utilitarian perspective, if this is implemented, then this is the result that we're going to get. Like, we are not, hopefully, arrogant enough to believe that we have all the answers to the problem of poverty and child rearing. but that we are thinking about it, and hopefully we're thinking about it more deeply now, where we are like, oh wait, in thinking about it more deeply, I don't actually have the answers, and I don't know fully what should be done. But hopefully, for like, we're good people, and we're thinking the innocent child should not suffer. Like, I hope that end solution is where we all end up, but I might be wrong. I might be wrong, and we're like, no, drop them kids off. Even if we believe take them kids away, which I don't believe you should, unless something is wrong is happening. But yeah, I answer the question. Where is the link? The panel is closed now. But everyone can wrap up, because someone is about to go live, and I shouldn't have been live today, and I just don't want her first live stream to be one where she doesn't have an audience, and I'm not watching, because I do want to watch and so support. But go ahead. Everyone, you guys have a minute. Coco just let me run amok, and she did not wheel me in, so it's fine. It's fine.
Look, this is your world, Demas. I am just living in it.
It was our world today, but you left me. Go ahead, Joey. Go. You can start your ending.
I feel like this topic has been educational and instructive in a lot of ways. I think I really appreciate everyone's point of view on this subject, and it hasn't made me change my underlying opinion that we should restructure our society to help people, because I believe education is the best way to get out of most of the problems that we're talking about right now.
The great equalizer.
Yeah, it is the great equalizer, absolutely. And the more that we educate our populace, the better off we'll be, and the better off our children will be. I don't know that I'm willing to go so far as to say that anybody should be in jail. I mean, my own father, he ran amok, and he was a mess. So I know that I would want him to have consequences. I don't know what that would have done to me psychologically as a child, to have seen my father taken off to jail for not providing adequately for me. I feel like I would have rather had him, even if he didn't do right. So I think this is a very engaging conversation, and I hope to revisit it again, because this has definitely been educational. And thank you guys for having me.
Thank you for coming on. I did appreciate your perspective. I'm not a socialist, so.
That's okay. It took me a while to get there too. You can come on.
Oh, period. I want you to convince me to become a socialist. LB, you're next, but before you go, we can't demonize the government for not supporting the kids, but sympathize with the parents who chose to have the child in poverty. I don't think anyone, hopefully no one is sympathetic to, well, I don't know, maybe you are. I'm not sympathetic to the parents generally. Like, there are circumstances, but the ones I'm creating in my head right now is two people coming together to have children knowing that they can't provide, right? I simplified it. But there are, like, people who go through something and struggle and then are pregnant and they're in poverty. Like, I can sympathize with those people. I do believe the government I'm paying too much in taxes for the government to not be helping people who need it, like, and being paid for corporate bailouts. Like, absolutely. Before I complain about children and people in poverty getting resources, I'm going to have to get past corporations first. And I don't think I can get past corporations. So I will always be okay with the government helping people who can't help themselves. But I don't also want to incentivize bad behavior. So it's weird, but I'm not going to prevent people who need it from getting it like now. LB, go ahead. I want to come up and challenge socialism. Not enough time, Yasmin. I am so sorry. We might be able to do that some other time. Tomorrow, Sinji and Prince Petty are going to be having a discussion. I probably should put that up tonight, but I will. Go ahead, LB.
Okay, so what I would say would be the best solution for the situation would be to socialize education and healthcare, including mental health care. I think that's really important. And then aside from that, And by education, I mean K-12 and undergrad. I think both should be socialized, as well as the healthcare and the mental health. And then I think also that there's a difference between a parent that's not in a position to provide and a parent that doesn't want to provide and is making a choice not to. I think when they're negligent to the point where they're making several children, like there should be a cap or a number on it to where you begin to have criminal responsibility for what you're doing. And then in addition to that, I think that with providing for children for their clothing and their food, I think that there needs to be some sort of like medium between socialism and our current system, where if children need food and clothing, that's provided. But provided directly, because I think people have issue with giving money and then seeing in some situations parents abuse that or spread it beyond. And sometimes it's not because they're like, it could be they're getting support for one child and not the other, so now they're splitting money between the two kids, but the money was meant to go to the one kid. So there's different situations, but providing direct resources would help. So like something along the lines of socialism for clothing and food, like a hybrid type situation, but for base needs: food, shelter, housing, education, and mental health care. And then as far as locking somebody up for negligently creating a bunch of children and stuff, I'm not against it. My dad was in jail not for that, but most of my childhood, he was incarcerated 3 times, and his most recent release was when I was 17. And while I did not like having my dad away as a child, like I missed him, of course, I do respect that he was there because he deserved to be there at the time, and that
Wait,
he
how does
had.
this justify locking dads up for having multiple children?
Because I don't think that, so I don't think that the fact that your kid's gonna miss you should excuse the fact that you did something that goes against societal rules that you were aware of, and you chose to do knowing it was a crime.
All right, so LB thinks you should lock dads up who are having children they can support.
And not just dads, moms too. Like if people are breaking the law and fully aware they have to deal with their consequences, the results on the kids is not on society, that's on that person.
Wait, no. Not you can't use a law that doesn't exist to justify breaking it, but you're saying you should create a law that says if you're having children you can't provide for, you should go to jail.
A number. I think there's a certain number that should be like criminal.
What's the number? What's the number?
I don't know. I would say like maybe like around 10. I know that sounds extreme, but there are people out here making more than 10 children and not providing.
Did law school teach you about wrongful life?
Yeah.
No, but law school didn't teach me about wrongful life.
Oh, we learned about that.
Didn't teach me about it. I learned
it's
about
kind of
that
funny.
too.
We read a case.
I learned about it through life. Halima.
I'll have to say that this is very interesting and polarizing. Like I hear different perspectives. I'm like, hey, I agree with that. But ultimately, I agree with the solution that helps the kids most, whichever is the solution that puts the kids first. I believe in prevention before what is the saying?
Prevention is better than cure.
Thank you. So before bringing the kids and then having to deal with laws and locking people up, put a system in place to prevent that. I'm not going to argue eugenics because I kind of think that's evil to force vasectomy people. But I'm going to say ultimately, right? If the kids are here, put a system in place where the parent can work, like give labor in exchange for the kids being taken care of.
But my thing is, I don't understand how so many people didn't show up for the debate that said people should have children. Like everyone generally said, no, people shouldn't have children when they're broke. So now hearing this is like, wait, I thought this was very one-sided, but period. Finish up, Helena,
Yes.
sorry.
Nice. So I have to say also this is just for United States, because I am part of a tribe that, have been able to survive solely by having a lot of kids and poverty to help, like example, the farms. Like if they don't have if families don't have a lot of kids in those situations, they won't be able to upkeep and take care of like the crop and the farm and stuff like that. So I'm not going to speak about that situation. I'm only going to speak for the United States and first world countries. For first world countries, I believe parents should be punished. Parents who are incapable of taking care of their kids should be punished to bring a child into this world. And that's because I put myself into this situation. If my parents could choose to bring me into this life and poverty, I will choose not to be born. So, and that's just
Well,
my stance.
thank you, Helena. Everyone will have like 30 seconds because the person is going to start, and I want to be able to go there. Go ahead, Lisa. Wait, take kids away, lock the parents up so the government can pay a stranger to provide for those same kids. I really hope y'all are all foster parents. Jenny, thank you. Go ahead.
I don't. Yeah, I don't know if criminalizing that is that far fetched. As I'm listening to everybody, because at the end of the day, most jurisdictions have neglect laws on the books that can put a parent in jail. And if there was a report of a child being starved and not having adequate clothing, a mandated reporter would have to make a call, and that parent could go to jail. So I don't know if jail is that far fetched or really out of the bounds of the current laws that we have in most jurisdictions.
All
I'm
right.
done.
Thank you. That was short and sweet. Criminalizing the poor. You
You
heard it
make
here
everything sound bad.
first. We just want to hear what we want to hear. Wangari, and tell me how to pronounce your name. 30 seconds.
Wangari, you pronounced it correctly.
Period. And what about it? What about it?
I
Go
mean, if
ahead,
you
go
want to
ahead.
be technical, it's Wangari, but
Wangari. All right.
um, my time in family court, I'll say this much: it's very complicated. The children need to be placed first. In most states, it's already criminalized. America has a lot of socialist programs already. So the problem is the complication. And once people can figure out that line you were talking about earlier, then, people can move forward. But it's just really, really complicated. But the kids have to come first, no matter what the situation is. Because at the end of the day, if the kids are not taken care of, it's not only bad for the children, but it's also bad eventually for society because they
Yeah.
do grow up to become adults.
My child will come third, but yes. That child will come definitely third, maybe even fourth under my mom. But wrong life punishes parents. Wrongful life punishes parents.
But can I say something? People do lie about, I was in court one time and people do lie and get themselves locked up. For you to get to the point where you're getting locked up, it's extreme. And when I say extreme, I'm talking you're 20,000 in the rears sometimes. Now, this is cases that I've seen. Now, of course, there are cases out there that in other places where it's a bit different, but it can get pretty insane. That's why I said it's complicated
All right.
because,
No, I wanted to stop you because I need to go and I want Coco to speak. But thank you so much. Just an FYI, what we heard today was that parents, when you become a parent and you don't have money, you should be locked up, essentially become a slave. The 13th Amendment. So what you guys have said today is that you should be locked up when you have children and you're poor and become slaves. That's what I heard. Go ahead, Coco. Take us away.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me, Themis. I enjoyed myself. I know I was a little quiet, but next time I'll have more input. So before I go into my final thoughts, I won't have many. An observation: we are fighting for capitalism to be alive and well. I'll leave it at that. As far as the whole prison conversation for someone not taking care of their children, I think if we are keeping the best interest of the child in mind, if the goal is to have that parent provide for that child, criminalizing that, sending them to prison in the reality in which we live is counterproductive. You're creating a new problem. Criminalizing someone, having them have a record, socially and financially stigmatizes that person. So if you're wanting to have that person through prison provide for their child, you're providing them another handicap. I'll also leave off on this. From my observation, is just where my brain goes. Community was never an option. When we were speaking about what are the alternatives, how do we embolden families and protect the children and provide for the children, I believe we need to stop relying so much on white zaddy's government and build Black infrastructure so that when there are people that are dependent through poverty under capitalism, we have a safety net for our people. But I'll leave it at that. Thank you for having me, Themis.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much. There's nothing more to say. I appreciate you. I appreciate that ending. I did show my hand at the end. I just wanted to be able to talk to people without pushing my own side. Back in the day, you could get a sugar daddy to supplement your I hate you. To supplement your income, but now sugar daddies took Black men out of the home. Again, so, there is already a tort which holds parent accountable. It's called wrongful life. Look it up. I would love to discuss it. You can definitely discuss it.
I mean, it wouldn't make much sense for people living in poverty, but yes.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much. If you want to know where I'm going to be, True Mystic, I've tried to wait as long as I can. So I'm going to drop your link. There is your link. I'm going to be over there twerking in the comments as I do. If you have a channel and you come over here often, I like to check your channel out. I like to check people out who are here, especially if you don't come on, because I want to know who I am friends with. So have a wonderful night, guys. I'm going to be over True Mystic. If you could, let's go bomb rush her channel. I'm not telling you to subscribe. I've never told you to subscribe anywhere. Just let's run over there and just fill up her chat with the hats and the scales, because I like doing that. So yeah, can we do that? I'll give you 2 seconds. Bye, everyone. I'm going to put it in again.
Bye, Themis.
I'm waiting. I can show you that I can see if you guys are doing it. So I know you guys aren't doing it. See, I literally can see that the hats aren't. There's one, literally one. I don't see them. So where do we go? Click this link. This is the link. Hey, Lisa, welcome to the channel. Well, not the channel, the membership. Let me reload so I can see. True. We're waiting. I'm gonna go because this is weird to do this at the end of my stream. I wish you were live, but apparently you're not live. So I don't know what to do now. I tried. Not the fruit cakes. All right. Let me sit here and just be awkward. Should I sing for you guys? I should sing. How to send emoji. If you're on the computer, I don't know. But True is like not going live, and I don't know what's wrong. I thought she was live. All right. Well, I tried. True, I definitely tried. I tried to come over and show you some love. I failed. Oh, Erica said something. Oh, can you post it in her chat? Because all right, I don't know what's happening. Apparently, it's the wrong link. I'm the worst. I'm literally the worst. So that didn't work. See, she's live talking. Let's go to her channel. Oh, here she is. All right, this is the right link. So I feel bad for everyone on that that other link. Bye. Love you guys. I'm gonna end because I feel terrible. So bye bye.